Orestria, and this is Symphogear AXZ of Evil, episode 6. Before I start, I'm gonna go back to my rant from last episode just a little bit. I'm rewatching GX, and Hideka and Shirabe did a fight using their gear without linker in GX, and they were hospitalized and got totally banned from doing anything with Symphogear for a while. And also, Maria used Gungnir for like half a fight and ended up bleeding from her eyes and mouth. So this is what I'm talking about, where the previous seasons gave us consequences. This episode was a little bit better. Instead of like telling us the girls were tired, they actually showed the girls being tired and like sweating and stuff, so, you know. But this episode has two major plot threads. The in real life fights and the stuff inside Maria's mind. And I'm going to talk about the fighting stuff first because I have less to say about it. We discover that Hibiki, Tsubasa, and Chris are not video gamers because they don't know what a Hydra is. I called that damn noise a Hydra the first time I saw it, before the show even showed us that it would split and reproduce. It was that obvious. That said, I don't want to complain too much because it did lead to lots of cool fighting. This episode had a lot of action and I really enjoyed it. Our alchemist girls seem to understand that the noise by themselves are not much of a threat to the Sympho girls. But they're trying to spread them so thin and throw so many noise at them that the girls will be forced to use the Ignite system, which everyone knows that the alchemists can blow up off of the Sympho girls. I don't know exactly what the alchemists gain by destroying the Ignite system, because they did it last time and there weren't any repercussions. But it's a plan, and it seems like a pretty okay one. And because the Hydra splits and goes in 3 different directions, the 3 main Sympho girls each get some nice time devoted to their fight. Also, nitpicking, but we saw some people being threatened by noise at an airplane, and Hibiki comes in and attacks the Hydra, but it doesn't show her fighting those noise on the ground at all. So, RIP airplane passengers, you will not be missed. Like I said, I don't have much to say about all the fight stuff, so here's a quick rundown of my personal highlights. The Sympho girls being launched at enemies on missiles is apparently just standard practice now. Chris gets a motherfucking boat out of nowhere. Tsubasa turns into Disney's Tarzan and starts sliding down a Hydra tentacle. Hibiki skull crushes a bitch. Shirabe's transformation sequence heavily features yo-yos, which is just adorable. Kirika and Shirabe jump kick through an airship while holding hands. Aww. And Praladi suddenly has like crazy psycho facial expressions? Now, to the stuff in Maria's mind. Last episode, we saw Maria and Elf9 get sucked into another void-looking space in Maria's mind, and the post-credit scene revealed that it was Dr. Vare. And I was stoked. Dr. Vare, love him or hate him, is a pretty major part of the Symphogear story. So invoking his memory has got to be leading to something pretty cool. Obvious reviewer setup is obvious. Yeah, there was no point to Vare being there at all. I thought it was going to relate to him being the one whose research Elf9 was supposed to be replicating, but he just said, like, look in the deepest parts of your memory, and that was about it. It felt like the only reason he was there was for the surprise factor. Like, the reason he was there in the memories was just so you got that end credit scene, so you'd go, oh shit, Dr. Vare. Just like they dropped them into that, like, black void area, which, if you didn't see the end credit scene, was the end of their thread in that episode, and it makes you go like, oh no, and you're curious about what will happen next time. But, again, there wasn't really much of a payoff to that anyway, so what was the point? To me, Maria's own internal thoughts have more impact than Dr. Vare did. She has to face some of her own words and thoughts, maybe things she never actually said out loud. But if she did say them out loud, I bet they weren't isolated like this, because they really sound depressed and hurt, repeated back to her. And I love that those words and that feeling of despair washes over her. Admittedly with some heavy, like, symbolism of drowning. But I like that it literally pushes her and Elf9 away. After in the previous scene, Maria was so adamant, like, grab my hand, like, don't, stick with me. Mind you, it's also pointless because they're immediately, without difficulty, reconnected in the next scene. The answer to the question of which part of the brain does the linker need to activate to reduce the Symphogear feedback turns out to be obvious magical girl answer of love. That's fine. It's a magical girl show. Not surprised. But since that turns out to be the answer anyways, why wasn't our memory Serena? Yes! Yes, she was the far better choice. Infinitely better. It was obvious, but obvious doesn't mean that it's wrong. For one thing, we haven't seen a lot of Serena. Even in this recent trip down memory lane in Maria's mind, we've mostly just seen her being a cowering little sister while Maria gets beat. The main thing we know about her is her heroic sacrifice and how much Maria misses her. Wouldn't it be so cool to actually get to see them interact? Especially since Maria would have a chance to deal with some of her guilt. There's not really anything unfinished between Maria and Dr. Vare or Maria and Mum, but between Maria and Serena, there's a large gap between them still. There's space there for us to experience more, and we don't get that. Also, Elf9's whole theory was based on the Argetlem glowing blue and protecting Maria from feedback. And Argetlem was originally Serena's Symphogear. Like, I'm not crazy, right? It would literally be perfect. Sister's armor protecting Maria makes Elf9 think she needs to look in Maria's brain. Maria's brain shows them that she's being protected by her sister's love. Sure, maybe that's a little saccharine and a little obvious, but if they played it out well and they didn't hammer it in too hard, it would have been lovely. And it's a magical girl show. It's allowed to be saccharine sometimes.
Warning! Warning! Warning!
If they'd done that, we wouldn't have gotten the piece of fucking shit that we got instead. The way they got to the solution is love literally pisses me off. That's right, we're at the Mom abused me so much because she fucking loved me storyline. Fuck. God damn it, show. I can't accept this. This is literally awful. They're literally showing us an example of something that's not love and telling us that it's love. This is a terrible message. Just because Mom didn't let anyone quit doesn't mean she's not terrible. It just makes her sound like more of a monster. Your fucking leg gets blown off, you're not allowed out of the program. There's no protection here, there's no love or care. To rub salt in my wounds, they bring up the goddamn tomato scene again. I'm a teacher. There's a reason we don't force children to stay in school and beat them until they learn. Because a harsh environment does not make you stronger. It does not make you kinder. Being raised in an abusive situation causes all kinds of problems. I shouldn't have to explain this obvious shit like PTSD and other reactions to trauma. There's all sorts of psychological problems and disorders that come from, not exclusively, but are often seen in situations of abuse. How many serial killers you look into their home life and you find abuse? It's not every one, but it's a pretty noticeable pattern. And even more simply than that, every time you hit a child, you lower their future IQ. This is not protection, this is not care, this is not love. Go back to the saccharine plotline, who gives a shit if it's obvious, at least it makes sense. Half of my script is in all caps at this moment, but this literally destroys the episode. The fighting stuff is what I like from Symphogear. It's fun, it's exciting, it goes with the music. It's goofy, but I can laugh at this. But I can laugh at it and have fun. But this shit. This! I mean, my ass!
I mean, my ass!
What? So, Apparently, finding the part of the brain necessary for the linker leads Elf9 to instantly have linker ready for use. Like, it's maybe 5 minutes showtime. Because this is all happening during the fight, and this fight isn't taking hours. That's not how fights work. Actually, it's worse than that. Karika and Shirabe show up to the fight using Harriers. Harrier jets that the song organization ordered before the Maria Elf9 part of the story was concluded. So, Symphogear's goal has never been consistency or plot making sense-ness. I'm not even surprised. Finally, we get this exchange. Isn't it time you tell us what you're after? Yes. Please. Okay, I meant in non-jargon. To the wiki! Okay, to recap. The Curse of Bilal is the thing that stops humanity from communicating to each other. We all speak different languages. The Curse of Bilal is that. It took away our ability to communicate to each other. Fine was also trying to blow that up, if I recall correctly. And her method of blowing that up involved blowing up the moon. On the moon, there are lunar ruins, and in Symphogear G, they activated the lunar ruins to get the moon back on its orbit, but that also reactivated the Curse of Bilal. And the power of God is just what the alchemists keep saying that their alchemy is working towards and that they've achieved. So, I guess when they say they're trying to, lift the shadow from humanity and bring humanity together, they mean that they're trying to end the Curse of Bilal, so that people can communicate again. Does that mean they're gonna blow up the moon again? Because we've already kind of established that the moon getting blown up is not exactly a great thing for the Earth. Not that that's something you have to establish. Well, hopefully we'll get a more in-depth explanation next time. Except we won't, because I assume the next episode is going to start with the Symphogear girls back in the song base, and the show revealing that the alchemist just left after that exchange, because that's what happens every time this season that the alchemists are with the Symphogear girls. See you then. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next episode, you can subscribe, or you can follow me twitter.com/Orestria. That is blinding. Fucking Daystar.